All right. Hi, Randall.
Hey, Anthony.
Uh, we've written a book about the other side of failure and learning things from biblical figures who got it wrong, but they get it right on the other side of how they got it wrong, and we learn things from them. Uh, we hear about your successes? We hear about these things early on. You've had screenplays that haven't happened. You know, the Hatfields and the Corleones, and or the
Yeah.
different stories that you've had. With that haven't happened, but looking back at a failure that you've learned from, what's something that happened along the way that helped mold you into the father, the leader, the director, the writer you are now?
Wow, that's a big question. Um, my son Andrew's started a podcast that I really love. That we have a problem. No, we have an opportunity. I think that's a great example of this, and I'd love to see this book about failure, because what is failure? Is there even any such thing? Failure to me would be that you didn't try, and that guarantees failure. When I heard about Opryland having, I was in school in North Carolina, and I heard about Opryland having auditions. I was in school at Duke, by the way, not the University of North Carolina. I'm not even sure they're accredited. But sorry, that's a very Duke thing to say. I love the University of North Carolina. Actually, it's a great school. But
They're all bums. Okay.
but I went to Duke. Hey, I went to Duke. But I had driven over to Nashville for an audition. I had an audition the next day, and I had stopped at a motel, and I thought, oh, I can find a motel anywhere, but for some reason there were almost no rooms. And I found one place that had 4 huge beds, and it was like for a traveling basketball team or something. But guess that I've got one room. I'll only charge you whatever it was, $8. You promise to sleep in only one bed. It's like, I only need one bed, dude. But I lay in that bed and I said a prayer. And my prayer was, I don't know if this is not just ego and fantasy that I'm thinking that I could ever be a singer-songwriter. I have no idea. And maybe this is not what God wants for me. But I pray that I do my best. I don't let fear get in my way. And my promise is, I'll never let fear of failure or lack of effort stop me. Those two things will not stop me.
Wow.
And I can tell you, yesterday when we got to go to the Anderson United Methodist Church, and we had arranged that I would get to sing Precious Lord, Take My Hand there. And when I was there thinking, am I really going to try to sing in front of these people who are just like the angels are booming around me? I've got to try. I can't. Not even. It's not a matter of how good I am or comparing myself to them. You just can't compare yourself to them. But I promised that I would not let fear of failure stop me, or lack of effort. I had put in the effort. Now it's step forward and do it. And that, to me, is what I've learned about. There's no such thing as failure if you try. If you try, then whatever happens, you've learned something. And you've learned what might work or how to pick yourself up and go again. That's not failure.
And what a beautiful service. And the pastor, with you talking about Peter stepping out of the boat, and I've shared this story a lot anytime I speak to a group, talk about, every pastor talks about, he takes his eyes off Jesus and immediately starts to sink. But for me, I worked on a shrimping boat growing up, and that story resonated with me, because I would imagine stepping out of the boat to walk to Jesus. But Peter walked on the water with Jesus, and when he did start to sink, he didn't drown. Jesus didn't let him drown. Everybody else in that boat could have gone and walked with him. But they see him sink and they get back in their seat, and then shame on you, Peter, and there's that mystique around that story. But for me, it was always what an experience he had, because he was willing to step out of the boat and try something. And I think as believers and things in our life, we step out of the boat and we can have this experience. Most of the time, we're probably not going to drown because Jesus is still with us. He's still beckoning to us and he's still watching for us. But we get to experience this incredible thing, even if we don't get it all right, even if we have problems with it, even if it doesn't turn out perfect. We still had this incredible experience. And when I think of you coming from your Tennessee roots and going and directing a major motion film is not the same as walking on the water with Jesus, but for that little boy from Lizard Lick roots, it is. It absolutely is. And it's an experience of being able to share and being able to, your film Heaven is for Real, which points people to a conversation and points people to Christ in a way that a lot of other things aren't able to. So to me, that particular story, that experience of stepping out of the boat, I think you personify that, and what an experience it's been.
Yeah, yes. Amen to all of that. I do want to add at the same time, because they're particularly young people, I want to teach and encourage people to step out of the boat. At the same time, I want to remind them that you have to make the sacrifices. You have to practice. Again, my sons and I were talking about this morning. There's the vision of what you want to do and what you dream of and but you want to keep the dream alive, but you also need to keep working on it.
There's a discipline.
There's a discipline. And I see the discipline as part of the sort of sacrifice that shows, as someone said, the walls aren't there to keep you out. They're there for you to show how much you want in. And I think it's like, I love the process, and I'm constituted for it, of steady work. It's what you do every day makes you who you are. And you can make incredible progress if you do something every day and it stacks up over time. One of the things I discovered when I nearly lost my hand and I decided I was going to really learn to play the piano was that you start out and you can't do it. It's like a baby learning to walk. Things don't work. But if you just each day put forth some effort, then over time you suddenly find yourself, I can do this without even really thinking about it very much. So there is a price to be paid. Having said that, there's this other thing of sometimes, like say writing a song, there's a song that suddenly comes to you and it happens in 5 minutes and there it is. Yeah. And then there are the other things that you work on to get there. And it happens in both ways. We don't control. Somebody
will ask me, how long did it take you to paint that painting? And I said, an hour and 51 years.
Right. Yes.
It's that whole process and being faithful. And then I believe God honors that. Last question, Randall, how do you want to be remembered? That's a Barbara Walters question.
Boy, it sure is. Yeah, I never even thought of it. I don't want to be remembered. I want to always be present. I think I forget who it might have been Sylvester Stallone, but he had some great line about, I don't plan to die. I plan to just, it's like.
And the great thing about film and books is you do leave something behind. There will be a legacy there, even when you're gone. But better than that, your children.
Yes, the an interesting thing that I've realized that has happened is, well, my sister and I have recently grown far closer than we ever were before at this stage in our lives, and it's a really beautiful thing. And as you do with a sibling, when we are sort of looking back at different pivotal events, we've realized that each of us sees them in different ways and has different memories about them, and even recalls them in some ways that are, one will say, I never knew that, or that's not the way it happened, or that's not the way I remember it. And the interesting thing is that we actually did have different experiences, even though we were in the same place at the same time, but what was going on within us and what we were perceiving, what we were focused on, was different. So one of the things that I've learned is that people see through their own eyes, and that almost changes more than whatever it is that they're actually looking at. So in a sense, I remind myself at every birthday that I'm old enough not to care about what other people think. So it's pretty much that. It's not in my control how anybody's going to think of me.
I think you're going to be well remembered. I have a gift for you. We're so excited, and we, again, already feeling this warm bond with you and your sons, and we think this is the start of a beautiful friendship, and I'm so excited. And we have a little something. I know that you're a fan of Mark Twain.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
This is a painting that I did for my Tom Sawyer book.
Wow, you caught his eyes. Woo. So much emotion in his eyes.
And we'll ship that out to you. You won't have to carry that on the plane. But
thank you so much.
That's something I wanted you to have, one of the originals from that.
Well, I tell you,
you can't get much better than Mark Twain.
No, you can't. But his eyes are welling with emotions in it. I've never seen that portrayed, and yet I've always believed that about him too. You know, he's losing his daughter, I think maybe 2 daughters, and his wife, and to have written with such joy and love, and to have such tragedy in his own life, and you caught that in his eyes. That's remarkable.
So a little something for you to take back to California.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anthony.